We're going to talk about the history of the atom and the scientists that contribute to our understanding of the atom. Our goal for this little unit is to be able to understand all of the history and science that led to what we know now. And by the end, I hope that you're able to describe the different models of atoms and the scientists who influenced them so that one, you can get an appreciation for all that you're trying to learn, and two, understand that each of these models gives us new information that we now know. Now, when we talk about the history of the atom, these are kind of five names and our current model that stick out. The first is Democritus. This is the beginning of the idea of atoms. John Dalton, who kind of formalized what we think of as chemistry. Thomson, who really led to a change in Dalton's ideas. Rutherford, who also led to a change in Dalton's ideas. Bohr, who gave us the planetary model that you see so often. And then we'll talk a little bit about the quantum model, which is the model that we now have, and we'll go into more details later on. So let's start off with the beginning. The beginning is all the way in ancient Greece. There was a philosopher named Democritus, and he was thinking about the world and was wondering, what happens if I cut something over and over and over and keep making it smaller? So imagine taking a sheet of paper and tearing it in half, and then tearing the half in half, and tearing the half in half again. And he eventually decided that there must be a point where you wouldn't be able to tear matter in half anymore. And he called whatever that is atomos, which meant indestructible or indivisible, that it can't break apart. However, his ideas were rejected because they weren't scientific. And at the time, everybody thought that everything was made up of four or five elements: earth, fire, wind, water. And that's because they could see those things. They couldn't see atoms. Now, it wasn't until thousands of years later that we start to formulate our understanding of chemistry and how matter behaves. And a scientist by the name of John Dalton puts down on paper his ideas. And the word he used is postulates. A postulate is an idea. And John Dalton had five postulates at the time, around 1800s, early 1800s. And these five postulates are the beginning of chemistry. The first postulate that Dalton said was everything is made up of elements, and elements are made up of small, indivisible particles called atoms. This postulate was just borrowing Democritus's idea. But he said that at some point there exists an atom, and you can't break an atom up into anything smaller. His second idea was that all atoms of a given element are identical in size, mass, and other properties. So this means that all gold atoms are the same. He thought that all carbon atoms are the same. His third point was that atoms of a given element are different from those of any other element and have different masses that cannot be created or destroyed. And what this meant was that carbon is different from oxygen. Oxygen is different from hydrogen, and they weigh different amounts. Some atoms are bigger and some are smaller. But if I have a carbon atom, it must always stay a carbon atom. Number four, his fourth idea, was that you can do chemical reactions to take atoms and combine them to make new chemical compounds. And he used the word whole number ratio, which means that I can't take half an atom. It's got to be a whole atom. And then finally, number five was that chemical reactions cause the rearrangement of atoms.